Yeah, so I've been working on the back of the car now, the rear suspension. So I got it jacked up and got it all. This is all cleared out here. And removed everything under here. And so I took some measurements, and if I put this in the way it's supposed to go, or the way it went in on the 944, looks like it will fit. However, if you look at the way that it goes in, you've got the wheel back there, and then there's a front mount right there, and then there's 2 bolts right there, and then a third bolt. So I measured the distance between these upper brackets, and they pretty much translate to these frame rails here. They pretty much would line up and be able to mount on them. So that's good. The problem is that this piece here wants to go right in here. It's pretty much right in there. And so all of this, and it probably has to go in something like, I didn't measure it exactly, but it's got to go in there pretty far. So all of this metal here is going to have to be cut away and something added to mount this to. And this is where the old suspension used to mount, right here. And I think there's something under here. So there's a lot of metal right here, but it's just not in the right place, for mounting this in here. So I am reluctant to cut all that out, but I'm sure I could do it. So that is going to be a pretty significant fabrication there, and I'm reluctant to do it, but I can do it. It's just it'll take a lot of work. No stranger to that. But so let me just describe this rear end. If you're not familiar with the 944s, this is a torsion bar suspension. There's a torsion bar in here inside this tube, so there's no traditional springs, and this rear arm pivots up and down by connecting with this from this plate, and this plate, this one right here, is connected to the torsion bar. So the torsion bar runs through here and is pivoted, plugs in the middle there, and then it comes out, and then this piece connects to it. So when the arm goes up, it twists the torsion bar. So there's another issue. The transmission goes here, goes right in here, and it has the axle shafts come out, and the transmission face, the face of it, the mounting point, is right here, and of course on the 944 it's got a torsion. It's got a torque tube that bolts to it, and the torque tube goes right through here. Now, because we're going to make this be mid-engine, instead of having a torque tube here, let me see, instead of having a torque tube here, there's going to be an engine right there connected to the transmission. And the engine is going to want to be right there. So this torsion bar is in the way of the oil pan of the engine. So here's the 940, here's the engine, and you can see. Let's see. I apologize. Probably have made this a little clear. should have prepared to make my video. So you can see that there is kind of an indentation because this is this goes in a front-wheel drive car. So there's the front cross member. So there's you know, there's the space right there where it lifts up. And what I want to do is get that, put that oil pan indentation, you know, right where this torsion bar is. But I'm not really sure if it's going to work that way, if it's going to fit, if it's going to end up being exactly right where the torsion bar is. And but you will notice that I have measured this, that the width of the oil pan down there is pretty narrow, and it's pretty much the same width as these is right here, from here to here. So what I came up with is basically to use shorter torsion bars, and then I could cut this part of the torsion bar to cut it away and put a drop in it. And I hope this is making sense. So, I mean, some people that race 944s just put in coilovers, and they just eliminate the torque tube, the torsion bar altogether, and they just use the shock mounts with coilovers. And you know, that might be viable, although these are just shock mounts. These are not really made to take the weight of the transmission, but they seem to get away with it. However, I'm going to have a lot more weight than just the transmission. I mean, the 944 transmission doesn't weigh very much, weighs maybe 150 pounds, and this motor, of course, weighs a lot more than that. It probably weighs 300 pounds, plus the 150 of the transmission. So I don't really want to use just coilovers and put all the weight on that shock mount. So what I came up with is to use shorter torsion bars, and so I got some right here. So these torsion bars are much shorter. So you can see that actually I think they end up going like this. They go out to the end of there, and that puts them right here instead of right here. So I can use these shorter torsion bars and still have a torsion bar in there to hold the weight, but then I can drop this down to make room for the oil pan. And these torsion bars are out of a Volkswagen Beetle. It's really interesting. They're the same. They're the same. The threads are all the same, and they just will fit in there. They're just shorter, and of course they hold a lot less weight. I don't know, you know, whatever the spring rate is on these torsion bars. The Volkswagen spring rate is a lot lower. They're a lot thinner, so they twist more. So I'm gonna need the coilovers for the shocks. I'm gonna need coilovers and the torsion springs, and that should be enough to hold up this motor and transmission on the suspension. And you can see it's back there. I've got the coilovers. So the other idea I have is to put the rear suspension in backwards. So instead of the way it's done in the 944 and pretty much all cars, is that the arms pivot from the front, right? So they pivot in the middle of the car, and I'm thinking that maybe I can turn this around and have them pivot from the back. That way the engine is going to be up here and the transmission is going to be right here, and this torsion bar, this torsion bar is completely out of the way. It's in the back. Instead of having to go over it, it's just back behind the transmission. And I don't see any reason why that can't be done. I've never really seen a car built that way. And you know, I can see why they don't do it, because you have all the structure in the middle of the car. You don't have a lot of structure in the back of the car. However, in this car you do, because the engine was in the back. So you've got these frame rails back here, and so I'm gonna investigate that. And in that case, I will be able to actually put it up in there instead of this piece, you know, having to jam itself in there. Well, now I got the other side, but basically this is going to go, you know, back here. So we're on this side. So instead of going in the front, it's going to go in the back. So it'll basically be mounted like right there. So it's probably a lot easier to add some structure that attaches to this frame rail right there, and of course the other part of it will still attach to the frame rail up top. I think it might work just fine, and then I don't need to cut this. And I mean, it's going to be a lot of work to put in the shorter torsion bars, to cut this up and rebuild this, and then so I think I might be able to just put this in backwards and I think it'll work. So we'll see. So that's next. And okay, well, I hope that wasn't too confusing. My camera work was pretty bad, but that gives you an update on where I'm at here. All right, thanks for watching. Check for the next one.